Hey, good afternoon, you fine, fabulous book people. We're here for Beard on King. This is episode 9, and today we're going to talk about the film Doctor Sleep. Now, I will say that I watched this film, I don't know, maybe a year ago, but before I had ever read the book. I recently read the book. Beard on King 8 was the book. Now we're going to talk about the film. I have rewatched the film. I will say that I love this film. I think I don't really star rate film, but I think I 5-star love this film. Really, if I had to put that 5-star summary, into a very, very brief summary, I love Rose the Hat and the True Knot as villains. I love the character of Abra Stone as a child protagonist. And I love that we go back to the Overlook. Love those scenes of going back to the Overlook. And there are other parts of that I really, really like, and we'll talk more about it. But if I had to sum up, I think Chad Lutsky said when he saw us go back to the Overlook, he got giddy. And that is exactly what I felt. That when we walked back in there, when the lights started to come on, I was giddy. So, I'm not going to go a ton into the plot, like as far as Danny and how we meet him. I think that the movie did a really good job of kind of following along with the book where it could. Now, again, this is a sequel to The Shining, the book, or it's an adaptation of Dr. Sleep, the book, but it's also a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's movie, The Shining, because in the end of The Shining, the book, the Overlook is no more. In the end of The Shining, the film, the Overlook still exists. We go back to the Overlook. So the major differences about the movie to the book, I mean, again, there are a bunch, but the major differences are Abra and Danny's relationship, and the ending. Multiple levels of the ending, but the Overlook specifically. Now, before I go any further, I'm not going to really try to be spoiler free here. We're going to discuss this film, and I'm going to tell you a lot of details about it, things that I noticed. So it's a 2.5 hour film. So go watch it and then come back and watch this if you're interested. But if you're worried about spoilers, if you're worried about me spoiling the film, Dr. Sleep, just go on, okay? So, cool scene when, when Danny goes into the doctor's office. I didn't catch this the first time around. Since the first time I watched it, again, I've redone The Shining film, read this book. But the doctor's office, I think it's Dr. John Callahan or something to that effect. He's like the head of the AA program that Danny's a part of. Danny goes to his office, and it is identical. Maybe not identical, but it's the damn same office from. I'm drawing a blank on the hotel guy's name, but from the Overlook, from when Jack Nicholson first went in for the interview at the Overlook. It's the same office. I found that really, really cool. Now, all the people that they got to play, like the previous characters, like the character they got to play Wendy Torrance, the character they got to play Danny Torrance. I really liked the one they got to play Wendy. The one they got to play Danny was, it was okay. He was a little kid. There was nothing wrong with him. I just he looked a little bit different than the first kid. So it didn't throw me off or anything. But as far as casting goes for the film, I loved it. I love Rose the Hat. I loved Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat. Rebecca Ferguson as Rose the Hat was my first introduction to her. So it was hard for me to read a lot of these characters and not see the people that have been cast as them. One thing I will say is that I had forgotten who played Crow Daddy in the film when I read the book, and I pictured him as a larger person, taller, maybe a little bit more muscular, a little bit more foreboding. And the gentleman, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the way the guy played him, but that's the only casting choice that I was kind of like, Of course, love Kylie Curran as Abra. Just beautiful eyes. I love the young actress playing that part. Ewan McGregor, at first I kind of questioned it, but there are some scenes throughout where you see Jack and you also see young Danny. So I think that wound up being a pretty good choice. He also played a drunk, rock bottom type of character very well. I love the character of Snakebite Annie, and Emily Allen Lind plays that part. I thought she did a great job. Cliff Curtis is Billy Freeman. That's a bit of a change, I think, from what you would expect if you just read the book, but I love Cliff Curtis, and he kills it in that role, in my opinion. And then I'm not going to mention anybody else, I don't think, until later. So, we're picking up with Danny Torrance's life. Again, I try not to be super repetitive of the things that I said in the book, but he's we have some scenes of his childhood post the Overlook. The guy they got to play Dick Halloran was pretty awesome. Dick comes back and visits him occasionally to help him. The ghost of the Overlook are still haunting him. The woman from room 237 is still showing up in his bathroom at his place in Florida. They moved to Florida, and Dick kind of shows him how to do that, how to take care of that, how to create these boxes in his mind. And put these ghosts away, and the movie representation of that was great. I think, again, we had the hedge maze that we do not have from the source material, and those boxes exist in the hedge maze in his mind. That part was really cool. So he's so we have some early scenes with that, and then he's an alcoholic, and there's there's a turning point scene where he is out drinking with a woman, goes home with her, they do some cocaine, whatever. He wakes up, she's passed out in the bed, they've spent all his money on cocaine, there's a child present, and he takes the woman's money, and it's something that it really, really tears him up that he's done this. Like, this sticks with him, and that scene, we escalate to a point where he realizes that woman and that child that he left, the woman had OD'd or whatever, and the child died because there was no one there to take care of it. And they come back to visit him later, and it's kind of it's a messed up scene. The movie does a great job of that part of these rotting corpses or whatever coming back to haunt him. It's one of the freakiest parts of the movie. So he's just kind of trying to make his way. He's got moved to a new town, got a new job, met Billy. He's in AA. He's trying to get clean, trying to do the right thing. He's working at a hospice place, and he has the skill set, I guess, to help people pass on, to help people cross over, to ease them from their suffering into the afterlife, and that's where the title Dr. Sleep comes from. But so he's doing all these things, and he meets Abra, not physically, but telepathically. I mean, he's got this wall in his room, his like chalkboard wall, and she writes hello, and they start to communicate, and he realizes, that Abra's a hyper strong shining kid, and it comes to her attention that there are some people out there that are killing shining kids. They feed off of it. They feed off the steam, the essence, the soul of these talented, shining children. And she witnesses a scene of them kidnapping the baseball boy, this little kid that plays baseball, and they kidnap him and take him out behind this old ethanol plants, and they kill him, and they torture him because fear and pain purifies the steam or whatever. And there's this scene with, again, Rose the Hat, Rebecca Ferguson. She's a very beautiful lady, very easy on the eyes. And but there's this scene where they're holding this boy down, and he's like, is it going to hurt, or are you going to hurt me? And she just kind of leans in and says, yes. And just a wicked scene. But so that part was brutal. That kill scene with the baseball boy was brutal. So, things happen. I'm going to, summarize here. I'm already talked for 10 minutes, but they get on. The True Knot gets onto the trail of Abra, and Danny is going to help. I mean, Danny's going to try to keep these people off of her. Now one thing that I found kind of funny is that supposedly this group of people can sense these children around them, and there's one early scene that takes place where they're taking someone, and Danny's like right there, like right there in the same town or whatever, and they didn't sense him. And later on, Rose the Hat makes a statement, how did we miss you, but I found that kind of odd because, right, they can sense this stuff. But I guess if you had the True Knot go after Danny, 3 months out of the Overlook, then your story is over, I guess. But anyway, so Danny's helping Abra. Abra's helping Danny. She's helping him kind of be this person that his father couldn't be. Be this person that can take care of a child with the abilities that he had. So there's one scene where we do a little trickery and lead a bunch of these True Knot people out into this remote area, and there's like a showdown there. And one difference is that the True Knot is a lot larger in the book than it is in the movie. Of course, you couldn't probably introduce all these characters, but the True Knot already felt like it was dwindling, like 7 or 8 members. It felt much smaller than it did in the book. Now, in the book, when they took I think it's Bradley Trevor, the baseball boy, he had the measles and they didn't realize it. And again, this group of people, they're not immortal, but they live a really long time. And each time they feed, they extend their immortality or their life. And, but he had the measles, and they all started to get sick from that. And they started to kind of, really start to degrade, really start to dwindle, so much so that they were put on in a position that they had to have Abra. Like Abra was either we get Abra or we're done. They'd put like all their strength, consumed all their excess steam in this effort to go and get Abra. Now, book movie, fairly similar there, except for the measles thing. I mean, they are down to like their last canister or whatever of steam. There are fewer kids like this, or they're harder to find, I don't know, the internet is holding down these abilities or whatever. There's just not a lot left out there for these people to eat. So when they find Abra, they have to have her. One thing I really liked about Abra is she is an ass kicker. I mean, she is a ass kicker from jump. I mean, she is not. She doesn't need Danny. I mean, Danny helps her. I mean, she needs Danny's help, but she is an ass kicker, and she is a very, very strong young female character. I loved that about her. So we're on this, and I'm sure I've forgotten a bunch of things that I want to tell you real quick. There's a cameo from young Danny Torrance. His name is Danny Lloyd. If you watch it when they're at the baseball field with the baseball boy, he's one of the fans in the stands talking about how talented this kid is. It's almost like he knows what the pitcher's going to throw. But that is him, and I find this super cool. He works at the same college system here in Kentucky that my wife does. I mean, we're in the northeastern part of the state. He's in the western part of the state, but he is a science professor. The Shining is like the only acting credit on his resume, and so I find that really cool. I guess every semester, the first day of class, kids get to ask any question they want to ask about The Shining or Jack Nicholson or whatever they want to ask, and then they got to stop. Then they got to put it away for the rest of the semester. But I find that really cool. So he makes a cameo. So it all comes down to the final scene. And well, first, before I get there, in the book, Abra and Abra and Danny are really related. There is, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but there is an actual familial relationship between the two. In the movie, that is not the case. She calls him Uncle Dan, but they are not related. So that's a pretty major difference. Now, in the book, we climax at the place of where the Overlook was, but the Overlook doesn't exist anymore. There's like this big like platform, like a stage almost. Kind of, it's like referred to as the top of the world or the top of the something like that. But it's just a wide open area with this like platform thing. There is no hotel. So in the movie, we go back to the Overlook. We go into the Overlook. Danny goes in and brings it back to life, so to speak. We see the lights. We see the rooms. We see the hallways. We see the carpet. We see Lloyd, the bartender. Danny goes in and sits at the bar, and it is a wonderful scene where Henry Thomas plays Lloyd the bartender, but kind of plays Jack Torrance. I mean, he looks like Jack Torrance. He talks like Jack Torrance. He says, no, I'm just Lloyd. But Danny is talking to him as if he's his father the whole time. And that was a crazy cool scene. The usage of the hedge maze, the usage of the hotel, all that stuff was wonderful. Now, so in the book, Danny saves Abra. They beat the True Knot. There are some similarities to the method in which they win, but Danny survives. Danny and Abra both come off the mountain. In the movie, Danny blows the place up, sets the place on fire. We find him on his knees in the boiler room, which I found kind of cool, because that's the way The Shining, the book, ended, right? The Shining, the book, Jack held back. He stopped himself from killing Danny. I forgot to do whatever I had to do with the boiler. He runs off down there and the hotel blows up. So we've kind of finally seen that scene somewhat in film format, because it doesn't happen that way in The Shining, the movie. We've kind of seen that scene in film format now, but it's Danny in the boiler room while the place catches fire. So Danny uses the ghost of the Overlook. He unleashes them from their boxes. He uses them to beat Rose. And again, it is a 1-on-2, Rose against Danny and Abra in the film. In the book, there are still some remaining members of the True Knot that are at the final showdown. But in the movie, it is just Rose versus Danny and Abra. So he uses the ghost of the Overlook, and then they take him over. Now, the scene of him stalking the hallways, looking like Jack Torrance with an axe, it was kind of cool. I kind of hated that for Danny, though. Like, I kind of hated that, the Overlook took him over, and after they defeated Rose the Hat, Abra then had to run from Danny. Like, I kind of hated that. But it made for some really awesome scenes. Like when Ewan McGregor steps to the bedroom, the room that they stayed in, not the bathroom, but the bedroom, and puts his face up to the crack in the door. You can almost see Jack Nicholson, looking through that crack. It's a really, really cool scene. And well, I didn't really like it for story, but what it allowed the movie to do, the stuff it allowed, the scenes it allowed, the nostalgia it allowed, that stuff was really cool. So that's really it. Danny doesn't make it out of the film. Well, he doesn't make it out of the Overlook, but we also learn that, we don't end. When we die here on Earth, we don't end. So we do have a scene at the end of Abra talking to Danny in her bedroom. He's standing there leaning up against the wall, and then we look away and we look back and he's gone. So like, you think for a second, you think that he made it out, and then you're like, no. He died in the Overlook. He's around, but he ain't around. You know what I mean? It's a hell of a movie. Again, Mike Flanagan kills it, and I am not I didn't know who Mike Flanagan was until Midnight Mass. when I watched Midnight Mass 3-4 months ago, I found out who Mike Flanagan was, and that I'd already seen I'd seen The Haunting of Hill House. I have not watched Bly Manor. I have watched Gerald's Game, and I had seen this, but I didn't know who Flanagan was. Like, I hadn't paid any attention at all. So now I know that this is done by Mike Flanagan, and he does an absolute hell of a job with it. I mean, hell of a job with the True Knot, Rose. I mean, the campers, the drinking and the alcoholism and the Overlook. Wow. It's a hell of a movie. I really, really like this movie, and it's 5 stars. I mean, again, those feelings when you see the Overlook again and it starts to light up, I was like, oh wow. So that's it. This is Well Red Beard. I'm sure I missed about 15 things I wanted to talk about, but we'll leave it there. Dr. Sleep, the film. I don't like it more than I like the Shining film, but it's definitely at this point my second favorite King adaptation. And I think in this case I do like the movie a bit more than the book too, which again is rare, but that has been the case with both The Shining and Dr. Sleep. So this is Well Red Beard. This has been Beard on King. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're enjoying all your books as much as I am. Love what you love. Don't let anybody tell you any different. I hope you're enjoying them all. Have a fine day.